Hello everybody, this is Cauldron, and today I want to take a look at some purchase contracts. And since someone gave me an idea that it would be interesting to do a challenge run, and there's also an achievement for not using a storefront, so the only other way to make money would be either to do quests or the actual purchase contracts. So that's exactly what we're going to take a look at today. But before we do that, very interesting recipe. You can do automatic cashier. It does dull shard, 3 of them. Not a good recipe though, because they cost 3,000 copper. That's 3 silver, so total 9 silver. You need 32 dull shards to make a diamond, which costs 100 silver. So you're about 200 silver of loss in there. So not a good recipe. But there's achievement for throwing cashier in a cauldron. So you're welcome. But yeah, let's get back to the topic. And there is 6 purchase contracts in the game right now. And you gradually open them by completing the quests to fulfill a certain amount of these items through the quest menu. And the very first one you get is the bandage contract. Now here's another thing to mention, that there are contracts that you get before obtaining Cauldron, and there are contracts that you get after obtaining Cauldron. So some recipes might change, and specifically I'm talking about the Gloom spores, because there is a build that does not involve Cauldron, and there is a better updated build with Cauldron. So let's take a look at the bandage build first, and we'll go from there. So this is our bandage production, and credits for this build to Nilaus, whom I ever so humbly borrowed this build from. And if we take a look, we are producing healing potion, we're producing linen, and combining it into the bandage. It's not produced quite at ratio, because we can see that we're producing 42 healing potions a minute, and it needs 50.4, so we're kind of a bit constrained, but it's still producing it, it's chugging along, and it's sending it into the portal. Let's take a look at Gloom spore build. So as I mentioned, there is going to be 2 builds, one before unlocking cauldrons and one after. So this is the build before unlocking cauldron. So as we can see, Gloom spores are made from yeast powder and fungus. We're making yeast powder from soap powder and fruit wine. Here's the fruit wine with the red currant, and here's the soap powder that goes from here. Oil and plant ash. Plant ash, oil. And we get in fungus from grinding rotten log. But that brings the challenge of getting rid of log, or doing something else with it, throwing it away. Whatever the case is, you make gloom spores, and you send them into Abyss. Now, the other build that I'm talking about, which I like quite more, is Cauldron build. And it's as easy as triple lavender, so you have just one lavender nursery behind. It sends it through one delivery port. You don't have to utilize all 3 of them. Just make sure to split them or not. Same thing, it's just gonna fill it out anyways. It's gonna produce gloom spores and send them out. It is as easy as that. Power of cauldrons. Up next, let's take a look at Apple Watch production. So it requires steel gears, copper bearings, and glass. We are making glass by smelting sand, which we're grinding right here in this big setup. Send a batch of sand into these kilns. I don't need 4 kilns here, I just put the 4th one for the symmetry purposes. But it's producing more than enough at this point. We don't need the 4th one. So the steel gears are produced in here. We're producing steel in the ethanol. We're producing steel out of iron and coke powder. which we are making out of coal. We're grinding into the coal ore, we're grinding into the coal, we're burning it into the coke, and then we're just grinding it into the coke powder. And sending inside to mix with iron and produce steel. Then to be sent up and produce steel gears. So that's our standard steel gear production in the Athanor. And as for the copper bearings, I'm bringing them from elsewhere, and you can go just standard Athanor way, produce copper powder and impure copper powder, but I would prefer my standard copper powder build with cauldrons. And yep, this is the build. So right here we're gonna have lavender. Lavender is gonna be sent into the top cauldron to produce gloom spores, and then gloom spores are gonna be going down into cauldron down here, and that's how we're gonna produce copper powder. And all it needs is just one nursery with lavender, triple lavender here for gloom spores, just like a gloom spore build before, then gloom spore with lavender from the same nursery into the copper powder, and then we're burning it into the copper ingots, sending it down, and we're making double the amount of copper bearings from the copper ingots. And this setup is going to produce 32.7, well, let's put it this way, numbers are going to be different, but it's going to produce more than what this assembler or processor will need. And this setup is way better than just using the regular Athanor build for production of Apple Watch. Let's take a look at Fertile Catalyst. So I went through quite a few iterations with my Fertile Catalyst builds, and I guess at this point it's my magnum opus. I do like this build quite a lot. And I have a double build, and I have quad build. So let's take a look at the smaller one. We are producing Fertile Catalyst out of Vitality Essence and Unstable Catalyst. I'm making Unstable Catalyst out of Copper Coin, Gentian, and Gentian Nectar, which I'm just using Gentian one plant, and I'm just sending it from both sides into all three cauldrons. That way I'm using everything that plant has to produce, so I don't have to throw away anything. So that takes care of Unstable Catalyst. Over here we're producing a Vitality Essence, also from Gentian Nectar and Gentian, plus Chamomile. So I'm using an entire plant again, and a Chamomile plant, and we're making Vitality Essence. And over here we're making linseed oil. That's for the lavender essential oil production. And it's all being mixed together into Fertile Catalyst. So this build right here, which easily fits into 1 by... Actually, it's less than 1 square, because it ends right here. So this is it. This is the size of the build. It's, I would say, 1 by 3/4 of a square. So yeah, and this build produces double amount of what your advanced blender can produce at any point of your upgrade. In my case, it producing 31.5 plus 31.5, it's 63. And if we take a look at the quad build, its bigger brother, right over here, I have 4 of them chugging along. So the only adjustments I had to make, besides adding 2 additional advanced blenders, were to add 3 additional, so we have 6 total now instead of being 3 total of cauldrons for unstable catalyst, and for vitality essence, also 6 cauldrons. Other than that, it's identical build. We can see side profile is the same. Just those two are sticking out a bit, so it gives a bit of a space here. And now it's truly takes 1 by 1 square. With everything else equal, I think it's not that huge of a build for what it does. And in my case, it's producing 126 fertile catalyst, or 4 times 31.5. Let's take a look at silver amulet, and this is my old build. So silver amulet is produced from silver ingot and lapis lazuli. I was producing lapis lazuli in quite an interesting way. I was making it out of crude gold dust, fairy dust, and fertile catalyst. And I was producing crude gold dust right here to the side and just directly inserting it into the cauldron. And I was making fairy dust on the other side and also just directly inserting it. And fairy dust was producing from impure silver powder and unstable catalyst. And crude gold dust was produced from silver powder, crude silver powder, and fertile catalyst. You can see the common theme, silver and catalysts. So I was also producing catalysts right here. So when I was saying that I had quite a few builds before, so I was making catalysts out of just simply burning Oblivion Essence to make Vitality Essence, and I was making Oblivion Essence out of limestone. I was also making Unstable Catalyst out of silver, Oblivion Essence, and Gelatinous Gridlock. Quite expensive build, I must say. So, and it was all sent over here to go into these cauldrons. Unstable Catalyst and Fertile Catalyst. Now, what about silvers? Silver was produced in here. In this tall build, I was producing crude silver out of mortars, Vitality Essence, and Oblivion Essence. And thereafter I was either sending crude silver powder or refining it into a pure or regular silver powder. It was pretty much being refined, and everything else was produced right behind. I was making Oblivion Essence, I was making Vitality Essence, and mortars right over here. Sending it all up here and making silver. So this is the old build. Now let's take a look at my updated one. Now making lapis lazuli out of World Tree leaves and Resonant Catalyst. And since this is the build that I'm using to produce gold, it's right up here next to the soul production, or future soul production. There's a bunch of world trees, so I'm using world tree leaves from this garden right here. It's being sent in here, and I'm producing Resonant Catalyst. Again, you can see common theme. This is my Fertile Catalyst build, and this is the smaller version of it, the double version. So my entire Fertile Catalyst build combined together with Obsidian build, which is Chamomile, Fertile Catalyst, and Silver Coin. And Obsidian being grinded into Volcanic Ash. And it goes all in together to combine together with Aquavitae into Resonant Catalyst. And Aquavitae right here is produced from brandy. It's on the other side, yep. Brandy, which is produced from fruit wine and coke powder. I have coke powder somewhere right there. And a World Tree Leaves and Gentian Nectar. Gentian Nectar is right there. A red currant right there for brandy. And World Tree Leaves from the same place. So all that being combined, produced into Resonant Catalyst, and sent over here to produce lapis lazuli. Now lapis lazuli being combined with silver that's being produced in kilns. I simply burn in coins, making silver ingots. It's just way easier this way. The costs about the same, so that's alright. All that being combined, and we're producing quite a healthy amount of silver amulets, because I need quite a lot of them for my gold build right there. Let's take a look at Moonlit Soap. We are making it right now. So this build is something else. It took me quite some time to make it happen. So the soap itself is not a difficult part, because we're using perfumed soap powder and moon tear. The moon tear is what's difficult. Also, the amount of moon tear that's needed, it's a lot. This is also too much soap. If you're selling it off of the shop, you're not gonna sell that much, so you're just gonna be stockpiling it. But if you're trying to sell it off of the purchase orders, I mean, at this point in the game, you're probably gonna have a lot of money already, so you don't need to produce too much of it. So I'm producing just quarter of what you see here. I'm not producing 25, just quarter of it, and I'll explain you why. So perfumed soap powder. Soap powder is just a regular soap build. It's tiny. It's cool. So lavender, flax. We're making oil right here. Then the oil being sent into oops. Let's see how much money we made. Also including the soap that we're talking about right now. This is soap sold off of the shop. 17 bars. That's why I was saying we're not selling too much to produce 25 a minute. Just simply not worth it. Luna is a money maker. We can see right there. Crown is great. Yeah, we have so much money at this point. 52,000 silver plus another 2,700 from here. Plus this is another 58,000. So we are way 65,000. We are way over 100,000 of silver in profits. And our expenses 37, what, little under 40. Yep. Anyways, so onto the soap. Soap is produced here, plant ash, oil, and we're mixing soap powder with lavender oil, making perfumed soap, and then we're just grinding it and sending it down in here. Now moon tear. Moon tear is produced in advanced alembic with stardust and fairy tear. Fairy tear is very easy to make. All it needs is arcane processor. You mix in chamomile powder, gentian powder, and world tree leaves. You're gonna have access of all of it at this point, and it's producing very healthy 63 a minute. But the problem comes from stardust. I was not keen on making Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn to produce just 50 of them every 300 seconds, so I decided to do something else with it. And we're gonna take a look what it is up here, again next to my soul build. I like this location. Castle view, great place. So this monstrosity right here, this entire thing, yep, this entire thing is just to make enough stardust to support moon tear. So let's take a look how I make it. Again, common theme. I make it in cauldrons. I love my cauldrons. From silver, fertile catalyst, and unstable catalyst. I need a lot of it because to make enough, and I'm using this setup for Luna build, and to make enough, I needed to produce 200 and change of stardust, or in other words, 16 cauldrons worth of stardust. That's why I have this ginormous setup of cauldrons, which is being fed by unstable catalyst from here, gentian nectar, gentian, and copper coin. 4 and 4, total 8. And it's being delivered via catapults. And on each side, I have a granddaddy quad fertile catalyst builds, because yeah, they need quite a lot. So this is a giant 3-tile build. Is just to produce enough stardust to make not even this amount, to make 40% from what you see here, right? Because honestly, that's all that's required for Luna build. And I decided I'm gonna use the same amount to produce soap. I did not want to produce entire 25 a minute, because we're not even selling that much in the entire day to produce 25 every minute. I just produce quarter of it, and it's being sold off of the storefront and off of the shop contract. But that's gonna be it. That was my Moonlit Soap build. And the next thing I was thinking, we probably need to start looking at production of Eternal Catalyst, which needs Philosopher's Stone, that needs a bunch of gems, and I already have designs how to produce gems. And I was thinking, why not to talk about how to produce all the gems? Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, all the smaller gems. We'll probably throw a Crown in the build, because Crown uses gold and Ruby and Sapphire. So we'll take a look at all of it. I think it's going to be interesting as well. But with all that being said, Cauldron's out.